Hello everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Paleo Art Studios. I'm Benjamin Michael Tanner, and today I'm going to be drawing some fan art from my favorite animated series of all time, and quite possibly one of the best we've had, if not the best ever we've had, in recent years. From the creator of Samurai Jack, this is Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal. For today, I'm going to be drawing a picture of Spear and Fang with a new character, and I'm also going to be explaining the impact that Primal has had on me as an artist and a storyteller. So, keep watching and you'll hear it all.
Alright, so I'm just gonna start this off by saying that this show was incredible. Like, the art style, the animation style, like, it just really captured me. Like, and I think that's the case with everyone else who's watched this. Anyone who is into dinosaurs and art and drawing and stories like Conan, like, this show was just a huge inspiration for me. And when it comes to art and storytelling, this show was a real game changer. It gave me free opportunity to ditch the rather limiting area of science fiction and dinosaurs, and gave me free reign to just go crazy and let my imagination run wild. And this show literally showed me how I could combine elements like fantasy with dinosaurs. And now this show came out when I was still a freshman in university. Like, the trailer first came out on YouTube when I was in my first year, and it actually looked really interesting. As someone who really loved dinosaurs from a young age, I was really looking forward to this. And of course, I loved Samurai Jack, the 5th season. Like, it was just so entertaining to look at. Like, I loved the art style. Like, I'm all about the art. It's who I am as an artist, as a kid who just grew up loving drawing dinosaurs and just spending his teenage years in the classroom just doodling and drawing fantasy characters. Like, this was my kind of show. And the interesting thing that really got me is that Genndy mentioned that he took inspiration from for this show from the artwork of Frank Frazetta, who I was a huge fan of in high school. Like I loved anything with barbarians and dragons and monsters and things like that. Like, in my teenage years, I was obsessed with movies like Clash of the Titans and How to Train Your Dragon. And when I got into my high school years, I became nuts. I went nuts about stuff like Conan the Barbarian and stuff like Redwall and especially Ralph Bakshi's animated classic Fire and Ice. Like, I love that movie. That was amazing. And Genndy mentioned that was another inspiration he took that from. And immediately I started to explore how I could emulate that. Like, at first I started drawing rough sketches of just Spear and Fang and the Tyrannosaurs from the first episode. And yeah, at first it seemed like an interesting thing to work on, but I never really grasped how I could really... What I'm trying to say is that until I saw the 2nd season, I never knew what I could really do with fantasy and dinosaurs. And shortly after, I saw a video by someone named Crunchy the Barbarian, who made this really awesome video by comparing Primal with Robert E. Howard's Conan the Barbarian. Like, not the movies, but rather the short stories that Robert E. Howard worked on back in the 20s. And I really started to see how I could combine all of my favorite elements that I loved growing up, like monsters and mythology, barbarians, warlords, and gods, with dinosaurs. And from that moment on, I was immediately inspired. Like, it just changed my whole perspective on art and storytelling, and it just showed me what I could do by combining all of those elements into one universe. And hence that's why I'm drawing this today, because I love combining things. Like Guillermo del Toro, who's also one of my role models in storytelling, I'm an alchemist. And I may be talking a little bit crazy here, but I consider myself Guillermo's counterpart when it comes to dinosaurs. Like, I combine dinosaurs with mythology and folklore, and I gotta tell you, it really fits. Well, for me anyway. I know other artists who love dinosaurs and telling stories about them, and like, they all got their own style. They like science fiction, but for me, when it comes to storytelling, I just had a really hard time finding the perfect science fiction adventure. And now, thanks to Primal, I found something even better. I found my own fantasy universe where I could just combine dinosaurs with just everything that I've ever been fascinated by growing up. So, in terms of art, when Genndy Tartakovsky took inspiration for the show from most notably Frank Frazetta's iconic Conan the Barbarian paintings, that gave me a whole new idea of what I could do when it comes to art. So I began to really study Frank Frazetta's art style and how he drew his characters, and I really started to emulate that. Like, I started drawing pictures of Spear and Fang standing on top of corpse piles. Like, the drawing I'm doing here is Spear and Fang standing on top of a mountain of dead dinosaurs that they just killed. And another thing that I really got from Frank Frazetta's art style is the use of gorgeous women. And I really threw that into my Primal art. Like, for this one, I got a cave girl that Spear and Fang rescued, and she's like standing at their feet. And like, now, as an artist, girls are one of my favorite things to draw. Like, I especially love cave girls. Well, like, what can I say? I'm a guy in my prime, and I like drawing girls. A lot of us guy artists are like that. We like drawing girls. But aside from that, like, it just opened up a whole new frontier for me. And after I saw the second season, I really started to get a really better idea on how I could combine other things that I was fascinated by, like barbarians and warrior cultures, and combine them into a world with dinosaurs. Like, I thought the Celts from episode 2 of the second season were fit in really well with dinosaurs. Like the entire episode, it just showed Celtic tribes living alongside dinosaurs and other prehistoric creatures. And I thought that was a really interesting combination. And it gave me ideas to combine other barbarian cultures that people really aren't too familiar with in this day and age. Of course, we're all familiar with the Vikings. They go good with dinosaurs. But my preference is I want to reintroduce barbarian cultures that not many people are familiar with, like the Huns, or the Sami, or the Mongols, or even the Saxons. Like, you don't see those two often in art very often. And so, like, yeah, I think both seasons combined really showed me what I could do. And it was just really influential for me. And in regards to the Conan inspiration that Genndy Tartakovsky got for this show, after I saw Crunchy the Barbarian's video and he explained how there were all these different references from the Conan stories in this show, I started to see Primal in a whole new light. And shortly afterwards, I started to draw Spear and Fang in the style of Frank Frazetta's Conan paintings, as I've mentioned before. And the more I did that, I started to see more and more how Spear was like Conan. And, like, to me, this whole show is literally a retelling of Conan the Barbarian. And, like, for me, it was just perfect. And, like, Crunchy's video just gave me a whole new wave of ideas for fan art that I could do of Spear and Fang. That, like, I started depicting them going on my own extended version of their adventures inspired by Conan stories. Like, I drew pictures of them fighting Lovecraftian monsters, battling frost giants, standing alongside Amazon warriors. Like it just opened up a whole new window of ideas for me, and it was really amazing. And it really opened up a whole new possibilities of what I could do for storytelling. Like, at first I thought about doing my own fan fiction series of the extended stories of Spear and Fang, but the deeper I thought into it, I thought, oh, you know what, Genndy's working on a third season already, and he's paving the way for new heroes, so Spear and Fang saga has already passed, so it's time to make way for new heroes. So, and from that moment on, I started to come up with a whole new range of ideas for stories and characters that I could create. Like, now I'm not going to share any ideas of my characters on here, because, you know, people have a bad habit of taking ideas from other people, so I want to avoid sharing too many details. So, anyway. And so for this picture, I wanted to make it my best possible, my best ever, my masterpiece. So I thought about just throwing in as much detail as I could, such as the mountain of dead dinosaurs, the cave girl, the sauropods in the background, the volcano, and as you saw before, I thought about putting in villains from season 1, like the Great Horn Tyrant, the witch in her Wendigo form, and Krog, the ape-man wearing a Triceratops skull. But then I thought, no, I want to put in something bigger. So I chose to put in the Horn God from season 2. And yet another idea that I got from the second season of Primal was putting in mythological gods. Like when the second season first came out, I looked on Wikipedia and I saw that the fire god that we saw in the second season was actually the Norse fire giant that brought about Ragnarok in Norse mythology, but I don't really know how to pronounce his name, and I'm not even going to try for this video because I don't want to sound like a moron. But yeah, it just gave me even more ideas on how I could combine dinosaurs with mythology. Like I considered the idea of drawing a picture of Odin riding an 8-legged Lambeosaurus instead of an 8-legged horse, or instead of ravens, he could have black velociraptors doing his bidding. And for Thor, he could probably be riding a chariot pulled by triceratops instead of horned goats. Like, I think for anyone who loves fantasy and dinosaurs and Conan, like, this is the perfect show to watch because it just opens up a whole new frontier of ideas that you can do. And for me, it just showed me not only what I could do for art, but also storytelling as well. But I'm gonna keep that private because, that's kind of my own stuff that I'm working on, and I don't really want to put that out there for everyone to see just yet. And now, thanks to the second season of Primal, and like all the references from Conan that Crunchy the Barbarian shared in his video about the subject, like, I'm diving huge into the heavy metal and sword and sorcery genre that I just enjoyed a lot as a teenager. And, like, when it comes to fantasy art with dinosaurs and cavemen, like, I'm getting ideas from other classic stories, like, say, from Edgar Rice Burroughs. Like, I'm getting ideas from characters like John Carter and Tarzan, and I think Tarzan is a great source of inspiration for prehistoric fantasy characters. Like, aside from his adventures in Africa, he also went into Pellucidar to fight dinosaurs. But aside from that, like you just get a whole new... I'm repeating myself here. All I'm saying is that I'm getting new ideas for fantasy art thanks to this show. And, like, it just changed my whole outlook on world building and character creations as a storyteller. And, like, for me, this show is just a work of art at its best. And as for the impact that this show had on me and quite a few other artists that I've seen on the internet, this series changes everything. Like, it just redefines the genre of fantasy, and it also shapes a new era for the dinosaur franchise too. Like, so far, I've seen people creating art of new cavemen and dinosaur characters inspired by Primal, and like, as far as me goes, I'm trying to come up with a whole universe, a whole cosmology, a mythology that is pretty much inspired by this show. And, like, this show just changes the world of dinosaur films and storytelling. Like, I don't think that thanks to this show, dinosaur fiction is never going to be the same again. And I think Genndy Tartakovsky is going to see all the things that are being created that have been heavily influenced by his show, and a lot of young artists and storytellers are going to look to him as a role model for animation, art, and storytelling. Like just like I do. Like, Genndy Tartakovsky is now my role model when it comes to storytelling. Like, his show had that big of an impact on me. Like, he showed me through his work how I could combine all of my favorite elements, that is mythology, warriors, and dinosaurs and warlords, and create entirely new things that no one has ever seen before since the days of Robert E. Howard and Edgar Rice Burroughs. Like, this show just opens up a whole new level for new world building and character creations. And I don't think Genndy Tartakovsky even knows this yet, but he has created a whole new legacy of fantasy fiction, art, and animation. Like, this show is going to be one that will be talked about for years to come. Anyway, that's my video, and this is Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal, and I gotta say, it's probably the best one I've ever done. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.